What about the project? Cut it out.
Watch out, TV.
Young lady, let us through.
Any comment at all about the charges?
Yeah. Oh, I'm done. Now, which one of you young ladies Roll.
Go with him. Give us 20 seconds, okay? Thank you, Mr. Castellano.
All right, let us go eat.
Just another 10 seconds, we'll be through. No questions, right?
No questions.
All right. Watch him, Jack. Mr. Castellano, what do you have to say about all the accusations? What do you think about it?
Just your reaction to what's happened. Just give us a quick reaction to what's happened. Is any of this stuff
Let us get through this.
No comment at all on the... Come on, we're going to stop it now.
This is wrong now. Come on.
Should be a limit, you know, take it easy. Bobby, okay?
Any comments on the indictment? Okay, we will. Got it.
Hey, Mr. Ricketts. Yeah. How you doing, man?
Tony?
Go ahead.
Tony? Tony, over here. Right here. Can you first just...
Testing, 1, 2, 3, 4. Testing, 1, 2,
That's 666. That's not necessary. John.
About 5:30 this evening, right at this location, 46th Street east of 3rd Avenue. Two people were shot numerous times. The only thing we can ascertain at this time is that it was 3 males wearing trench coats who left towards 2nd Avenue, and another witness states that he saw them get into a dark car. The tentative identification is that it's Paul Castellano and Tom Bilotti. As you're well aware, they're both on trial, or excuse me, I'm sure Castellano is on trial. I'm not that certain about Bilotti. They were shot numerous times with automatic weapons.
Caliber?
Where were they hit?
They were hit in the head and in the body.
Can you describe how it took place? Were they getting out of the car?
From the position, it looks as though they were getting out rather than getting in.
Was it close range?
Yes,
Were they dining at the Sparks restaurant?
not to our knowledge.
You look at the reservation book there.
They wouldn't show it to us. No, that's not so. We don't know if they were in there or not, and it's kind of early yet to determine where they were, or where they were coming from, or where they were going to.
Were they hit from the front of the back?
It appears to be from the side and in the back.
Are there any eyewitnesses?
Well, we haven't come up with anybody that is volunteering anything at this point, but we will get some information, I'm sure, before the evening's over.
Chief, what would be the significance of a hit on Castellano in terms of the mob in this town?
Well, I'm not an organized crime expert. Maybe tomorrow you can get some experts to speculate. I don't know, and I don't care to speculate.
Do you think it damages the federal government's case against the Gambino crime family in Bilotti?
Well, I don't think they have to prove guilt or innocence with him anymore. That case is over.
Okay.
Okay, thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Do you have descriptions of the three men?
Not yet. Well, we will. We'll have some.
What's the guy's name? Were they white? Bilotti. Bilotti.
Tom Bilotti.
Bilotti.
What do we know? Was he a driver? Their friends?
Well, their head's gone. Their leader's gone. Paul Castellano is now, or was until 2 hours ago, the head of the largest organized crime family in the United States of America. He's gone now.
Who would have the nerve to hit the head of the largest organized crime family in North America?
Well, the investigation is going to tell us that. Quite frankly, we don't know yet. But then again, the investigation is only 2 hours old.
What does this do to the federal case, realistically? I mean, he's a defendant.
I have no comment on that. No, I won't make any comment on it. I just won't comment on it.
What does this represent, a hit like this on the street? I mean, this is a very big guy. I mean, we should make no mistake about it, am I right?
They don't come any bigger. Represents the assassination of the head of the largest organized crime family in the United States.
It's a crime war.
Well, it could be the beginning of the war, yes.
Do you have any estimation of what forces would have enough nerve to bump him off?
No, not at this stage. We're just going to have to proceed in a logical, professional manner to try to resolve who committed this double murder. We're going to treat it just like any other murder. We're going to work with the local authorities just like we have in the past, and we're confident that we'll resolve it.
Realistically, do you think there's much of a chance of finding the men who actually pulled the trigger?
Yes, I have every confidence that we will. Our track record has been good. I think it'll continue to be good, and I think it'll be better than it ever has in the past. I think we're getting better. I think what you're witnessing now is another example of an organized crime that has lived past its time.
There is a prevailing wisdom that says professional hitmen don't get caught.
That's simply not true.
We're going to catch these guys.
I have every confidence that we will.
And what about the people who ordered this hit?
Well, I have every confidence that we'll resolve that too, and we'll bring them to justice.
When you heard this, what went through your mind? Oh gosh, we got a real mess on our hands?
What went through my mind is let's respond and see what we can do.
Does this definitely trigger that there is a mob war in New York underway?
No. What we have is two murders. It could be that it's the beginning of the war, but what time is going to tell us? It's too early to tell. What we have is a very significant double homicide tonight. All right?
I was trying to put words in your mouth.
Sorry.
They said it was for family only. The wake tonight for Big Paul Castellano, the alleged don of the Gambino crime family. A steady stream of people, some camera shot, entered the funeral chapel amid deliveries of big floral wreaths for the slain mafia chieftain. Not only were mourners at the wake, so were undercover cops and the FBI, who were staked out in this van taking pictures of everyone who entered.
You all FBI, you all covering this, right? And you're taking pictures of everybody coming and going? All right, thanks a lot.
Most of those attending the wake refused any comment, except for Castellano's lawyer, who would only say this.
Just here to pay my respects, nothing else.
While FBI and undercover cops were checking out the wake, in Midtown Manhattan, where Castellano had been gunned down, police were handing out leaflets to the public, asking for their help in finding the men who assassinated Castellano in front of Sparks Steakhouse. Police were also looking for 45-year-old John Gotti, the ex-con who law enforcement crime experts are saying is the new mafia boss. Apparently, the man who was supposed to take over as head of the Gambino crime family, John Gotti, didn't show up here at the wake for his former boss. Gotti allegedly wanted to show his respects by coming here, but instead preferred to stay away because of all the undercover cops in the area who would like to talk to him about the murder of Paul Castellano. I'm John Johnson, Channel 7 Eyewitness News in Brooklyn.
Well, the king is dead. Paul Castellano, reputed boss of bosses in American organized crime, executed on a New York City street yesterday. Who was Paul Castellano? Does this signal the start of a gang war in organized crime? For some answers, we turn to Ronald Goldstock, director of the New York State Organized Crime Task Force, and to Tom Renner, a reporter for the Long Island newspaper Newsday and author of several books on crime in America. Good morning, gentlemen, and thank you for joining us. Mr. Goldstock, who is Paul Castellano, and why now?
Well, until yesterday, he was head of the Gambino crime family. And I think the reason for his death right now was that a number of people within the mob felt that they were better off with him dead than alive. He presented only a threat to them. He was under indictment on trial now. He had 3 or 4 indictments yet to go. He was going to be indicted by the Eastern District. He would have been indicted by our office. It meant that he couldn't serve a leadership role within the family. He was spending large sums of money in his defense. He was under incredible pressure by law enforcement. He was bound to be convicted, incarcerated, his goods forfeited. And so they felt, for a matter of security, it was better off for him to be dead.
But he hadn't turned informant yet.
No, but the pressure on him was enormous.
And they felt that he perhaps might.
That's right.
Who are the people behind this, Mr. Renner, do you think?
Well, I think that probably there's a faction within the Gambino family that was headed formerly by an underboss named Agnello Delacroce, who died 2 weeks ago. And he was the stability within the family, the man who kind of stood behind Castellano and kept him safe because there was an agreement that he would control, Delacroce would control the New York operations. When Delacroce died, a lot of the protection that Castellano had
went with
him. And the man that succeeded him, or is believed to have succeeded him, was a man by the name of John Gotti.
So you think he's behind this?
Well, certainly I would think he heads the enforcement arm of the Gambino family, and certainly they'd have to consult with him before they did this.
Okay, does this mean all-out gang warfare now here on the streets of New York?
No, I would think not. My guess is that everybody has agreed upon this. The heads of the other families probably did. Castellano, if he turned informant, was as much a threat to them as he was to everybody within the family. They were all indicted together in the commission case, and therefore I don't expect that we will see gang warfare.
Castellano on trial, 4 other trials underway right now in New York City, the most aggressive we've ever seen the United States government with organized crime. Is organized crime feeling the pressure? Is that why we're seeing this kind of thing yesterday?
I think so. I think organized crime is under more pressure than it's ever been under, largely because the government has better tools to work with. However, I think to have a real effect, they're going to have to keep that pressure on for the next 5 to 10 years. If they don't, I think it'll be back to square one, and organized crime will continue to flourish.
A lot of people, though, who have seen organized crime over the years say, look, no matter how aggressive the government gets with this, there's always going to be organized crime. This kind of rub-out scene is going to continue on the streets, and it's always going to be like this. Would you agree with that?
Well, it's been that way for the past 50 years. There's no question about it. But in the last 5 to 10 years, we've seen a major change. We've seen the use of electronic surveillance, RICO, testimonial immunity, and other statutes. We've seen innovations by the FBI, by state and local law enforcement, aggressive U.S. attorneys. And the result has been an attack upon the mob, not only in New York, but throughout the country. And if that pressure is kept up, as Tom has said, it is going to mean a drastic change in the mob in the next 5 to 10 years.
What would you venture to guess is the mood in the organized crime families this morning? Are people relieved, or are they more on the edge than ever
I
before?
think a lot of people are walking on a razor's edge. There are a lot of people worried. You really won't know for several days whether or not this was a sanctioned hit, that is, agreed upon by the other families and within the family. If we see some bodies drop, some people killed in the next few days, outside the family, or on the Delacroix side, then I think we're going to have something more to contend with than a sanctioned murder of a boss. I think we might have a war of some kind.
So the next couple of days will tell the story?
I think so.
Okay, thank you both for joining us this morning. And as you said, we will continue to follow this story, and there will perhaps be more developments in the next couple of days. It is now 22 after the hour.
Big Paul Castellano, reputed godfather of the Gambino family and the man considered boss of all mob bosses in the country, was on his way to a Manhattan steakhouse. As he stepped from his black Lincoln, 3 men wearing fur hats and trench coats suddenly appeared, pulled guns, pumped 6 bullets into Castellano and 6 into his top capo, Thomas Bilotti, and then calmly walked away. Castellano was under indictment in the federal government's case against the leadership of New York's 5 mafia families, known as the Commission. He was also currently on trial and out on $2 million bail in a car theft and murder case.
Well, I don't think they have to prove guilt or innocence with him anymore. That case is over.
The main theory that law enforcement officials are working is that this was part of a power struggle within the Gambino family.
Next tonight, we follow up on the assassination of reputed mafia boss Paul Castellano. The 73-year-old Castellano, police say, headed the nation's most powerful mafia unit, the Gambino family. He was shot in the rush hour yesterday as he tried to leave his limousine to enter a well-known Manhattan restaurant. Also killed was his aide, Thomas Bilotti. Both men were shot 6 times in the head and body. Witnesses said 3 men drew semi-automatic weapons from under their trench coats and fired at close range. Then they fled on foot into the crowds. Castellano had been on trial in federal court in New York since last September on charges of conspiracy to commit murder. With us to provide some background on the story is the police bureau chief for the New York Daily News, Murray Weiss. Mr. Weiss, first of all, how important a figure in organized crime was Castellano?
Well, if you just look at the sheer size of the family that he operated, it had 250 members and 500 associates, considered to be the largest and most powerful of the 5 traditional families. Therefore, it de facto makes him the most powerful organized crime figure probably in the United States of America.
What kind of businesses were they in?
Well, in recent years, in the past decade or so, as has most organized crime figures, they've gotten into more white-collar kind of crimes, and the Castellano people particularly have been into labor, construction, meat, poultry, in addition to the normal traditional kinds of organized crime dealings like gambling, racketeering, extortion. So the panorama is wide and pervasive here in New York City and throughout the country.
For people who aren't voracious readers of this literature, what does the mafia do in businesses like meat and poultry and so on?
To them, they increase the price of what the consumer in America pays for ultimately. If on a small business level someone tries to open a business and deal with another company to get its poultry or get its buildings built, they will eventually either not be able to do it if they don't deal with the right people, or if they deal with the right people, clearly the price that they will pay will be a, shall we say, non-bargain price. And eventually, someone who walks into the store, that price is going to get passed on to them. If you believe law enforcement people like the FBI, you're talking about hundreds of millions of dollars, a second government, an invisible government, if you will, in which all across the nation people are paying for it.
Now, the people you have contacts with, the prosecutors and the police, what are they guessing today or speculating was the reason for bumping off Castellano?
Well, you have to look at it from a few points. He's under indictment, currently on trial, in the first of several cases, probably the weakest. And he's been tied up legally in court for over a year. He's going to be tied up in court for even longer. There are, shall we say, people waiting in the wings within his own family to take over. A week ago, Mr. Castellano's second in command, Neil Delacroce, passed away. So now you have the number 2 position open. Castellano is there waiting to fill that spot. There's a theory here that the person who was heir apparent to the number 2 spot, a man from Howard Beach, Queens, named John Gotti, may have orchestrated this hit on Paul Castellano. To do this, one might need the approval of other families. In this case, what's known as the commission, the heads of all the families that meet, which Mr. Castellano is said to have been the head of.
Like a godfather.
The godfather. That's who we're talking about here.
Yeah.
There are wiretaps on several of the heads of the other families where they speak in the foulest terms about Paul Castellano. And these tapes will be played next year at the commission trial, the so-called commission trial. So if Mr. Gotti needed support or the approval of the other families, it certainly would have been there, because they've long disliked him.
Why?
Well, they rose through the ranks the hard way, so to speak, to eventually take over the rackets, the organized crime families, in a very difficult environment, meaning New York. Paul Castellano, however, they feel, got his job because the late Carlo Gambino, the boss of all bosses for a couple of decades before he died in '76, married one of Castellano's sisters. So ergo, they sit there and they go, this more mild-mannered, less severe guy.
His sister married the boss.
Exactly. And the boss passed on the throne, shall we say.
If this theory is wrong, and whoever orchestrated the killing did not get approval from other families in the commission, then and did it just as a freelance job because he wanted to rise himself through that through the Gambino family, what does that mean? Does that mean possible war between the families, more killings?
Very possible, very possible. The way I look at it
is that given kind of equal weight now today among the people you talk to?
Well, let's say this person, John Gotti, who I named, did it on his own.
Yeah.
He didn't ask for anybody's approval. He might be able to get away with it because the heads of the other the other 4 families are also under indictment. They're also going to be part of the commission trials, and they're also the subject of their own loss of powers within their families. So if I were them, I might be looking over my shoulder to see if a John Gotti in my own mob is going to take care of me. If that doesn't happen, then it's clear a war could break out between all the families. What you have to see here is an old regime, not just in the Gambino family, not just Paul Castellano. The heads of all the families are old, and John Gotti is a younger, newer breed. And the same thing is happening in all the families. So you may see tremendous warfare in the next year or two between families, within families. This could be a very fascinating scenario played out in the streets of New York.
And this business about them being tied up in court in these federal cases against them, that's just like any kind of corporation. It couldn't tolerate having its head or its second in command permanently away doing something else for very long, because it wouldn't be efficient.
Well, often in the past, a major mafia figure goes to jail and continues to control the family. But in this case, you have the whole hierarchy on trial. Each one is old. And this is very embarrassing. This is a very embarrassing situation going on here.
We have to leave it there, Mr. Weiss. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
You want to take the phone body, right? Get phone bodies in one anyway.
Makes it more dramatic.
I would think this would be delicious.
What? She's the deputy police commissioner. She won't take these pictures for you. No, he was dead as a frog. This guy's been dead for 3 months. They carry him around. They prop him up in the back of the fucking car. Just finally figured it out. They got tired of carrying him. Go look at this. No?
Come on, hey, yo! Come on, cut the crap out. Got it in the head. Fucking detective, yeah. Right in the fucking head.
You can't be serious. Oh, I'm Paul Castellano's agent. I'm his agent.
Look at him catch your tongue there.
What's to the back of the head? Pro deal.
Huh?
Pro deal, looks like.
Oh, definitely. Without a doubt.
Yeah. Sergeant. One ball, lieutenant to bus captain. We'll try whatever we can. You gotta work fast on
this. New York police and the FBI were still trying to figure out why Paul Castellano, reputed chief of the Gambino family and alleged top mob godfather in the whole country, was gunned down on a Manhattan street Monday night. Last night, police parked a van outside the restaurant where it happened and tried to encourage any witnesses to come forward. The main theory behind the slaying is that it was a battle for succession in the Gambino family. Officials say that one suspect in the case is 45-year-old John Gotti, who's now a likely replacement for Castellano. It's believed that Gotti and other younger members of the family believe that because of legal problems of his own, Castellano was not paying enough attention to the multi-million-dollar mafia money-making activities, such as payoffs from corrupt construction jobs. There is also belief that other members of the so-called commission, the leadership of the 5 New York mafia families, may have approved. The big unknown and what most troubles law enforcement officials is whether this mob shooting is the opening round in a gangland war that will be fought on the city's streets.
Where do you think the person who ordered this is eventually going to end up? He's going to end up the same place Paul Castellano ended up, on a street with bullets in him.
And officials say that Castellano's high position in the national mob structure may set off a chain reaction of mob turmoil across the nation. Rita Braver, CBS News, New York.
Agents and New York police kept a close watch as hundreds of mourners paid last respects to Paul Castellano last night. The reputed boss of New York crime families was gunned down on Monday. He's being buried privately today. Authorities are still looking for the motive behind his murder.
John Gotti was arrested by FBI agents in New York last night. The New York Times reports that Gotti will be charged with ordering the murder of Paul Castellano, the man he allegedly succeeded in 1986. Gotti is called the Teflon Don because of the government's repeated failures to win a case against him.
Police are trying to find out if the slaying of reputed mob boss Paul Castellano had been approved by other crime bosses or if it was a renegade act. Rita Braver has more on the investigation.
New York police and the FBI were still trying to figure out why Paul Castellano, reputed chief of the Gambino family and alleged top mob godfather in the whole country, was gunned down on a Manhattan street Monday night. Last night, police parked a van outside the restaurant where it happened and tried to encourage any witnesses to come forward. The main theory behind the slaying is that it was a battle for succession in the Gambino family. Officials say that one suspect in the case is 45-year-old John Gotti, who's now a likely replacement for Castellano. It's believed that Gotti and other younger members of the family believe that because of legal problems of his own, Castellano was not paying enough attention to the multi-million-dollar mafia money-making activities, such as payoffs from corrupt construction jobs. There is also belief that other members of the so-called commission, the leadership of the 5 New York mafia families, may have approved. The big unknown and what most troubles law enforcement officials is whether this mob shooting is the opening round in a gangland war that will be fought on the city's streets.
Where do you think the person who ordered this is eventually going to end up? He's going to end up the same place Paul Castellano ended up, on a street with bullets in him.
And officials say that Castellano's high position in the national mob structure may set off a chain reaction of mob turmoil across the nation. Rita Braver, CBS News, New York.